Misamssootaa. Good morning. It is June 26, 2014, and we are at the beginning of the moon Misamssootaa, the long rains. And as if on cue, overnight it began to rain, and it's a rainy morning. I had planned this morning to start some of my summer harvest, and the rain is only going to help me because the things that I'm looking for today include roots, and roots are very much more easy to dig when the ground is soft and wet. So this is a good time to dig roots. We're starting a little bit late into this moon this year because we are on the odd year where we have 13 lunar cycles instead of the normal 12. And so normally the solstice falls within Misamssootaa, but we're off a little bit, and so the phenology, what's going on with the plants and the animals, is also off a little bit, not too much. So some of the things that we're going to see today, well, all of them normally occur within Misamssootaa, but some of them are a little bit advanced of where they would normally be at the beginning of the moon. Any case, I have made a commitment this year to get more into locavorism, to increase my use of indigenous foods in particular. And so I have a couple of natural garden sites in mind, places where I'm going to be getting some of my foods from. One of them is this site here. This is maybe a 5-10 minute walk from my house, and this is a coulee going down into the Old Man River. And basically what I want to use is from the top of this coulee all the way down to the river, from the high point on one side to the other, the high point of the ridges. That is going to define my garden, my upland garden this year. Well, not necessarily upland, there's also going to be some mountain harvests involved, but in terms of the area where I live, I have a few different kinds of environments. One of them is, up here in the coulees. The other one is of course riparian down by the river, in particular by some wetlands. So the wetlands offer a whole lot of unique resources that you can't necessarily find just at the river alone. So that would be another kind of a niche for some of my food. But today what I'm going to show are some of the foods that are available here right now, ready for harvest in Misamssootaa, in the coulee areas. I'll use this coulee, just this one draw this year, and the carrying capacity of this one draw far exceeds what I'm going to be able to, the kind of pressure I'm going to be able to put on it for drawing out food for myself. A lot grows in this area. This is, although we can see it all right now with the naked eye, it's a vast area. And a lot of plants grow out here, and other resources, and I'm not going to be able to nearly tap them in any way that's going to set back the biodiversity here. I don't know how many people it would take to do that in this draw, but certainly I'm not going to be able to do that myself. And next year I'll choose a different coulee draw, maybe a couple of ridges over, and use that one, and so on, just the shifting of the garden plots. Anyway, let's get into it. I'll start bringing you around, showing you what's going on phenologically, and showing you the foods that are available. Okay, as you can probably see, I've come a little ways down from the top of the coulee ridge and starting to run into some good plant communities, some of the ones that I'm looking for food. One of the, well, first of all, I should show you that there are some basic tools that are very helpful when you're harvesting. A knife is one of those that you should always have a knife. And then I use a crowbar as a digging stick. Now, traditionally, digging stick was a wood, or at least here. Other places they were antler and such, but here traditionally wood, and with a little bend at the bottom. And so this makes a good digging stick, a good kind of modern digging stick. It's heavy, but I don't mind. I get the one that's about 2 feet long, and it does a good trick for digging roots. Of course, you're gonna want bags to put your stuff in. I like to only use bags that are breathable, like cloth bags or paper bags. Given how much it's raining today, of course, I didn't bring any paper bags, otherwise they just get soaked. So let's go look at some of the foods here. First of all, one of the really classic foods that's available during this moon is the first harvest of the Misamssootaa, or prairie onion, and that is this plant that we're seeing here. There's a good crop of it growing right here. Basically this flower right there, the white flower. And for this, most times, especially if it's wet like this, you don't even need a digging stick. The bulb will be pretty close to the top. Oh, now see, I did need a digging stick for that. Let's dig in and find it. There we go. Here we go. That's there's the onion bulbs right there. Let me put this camera up and I'll clean it quick so I can show you, so it's recognizable as an onion. Trying to get it situated here on the slope somewhere where it's not going to just fall over. Alright, hopefully it'll stay there for a minute. Okay, so this is the bulbs, I should say, and the little onions inside. So these, of course, can be used raw or cooked, in just the same way that you would use a commercial onion. They're small, but they're really potent. Now, if you want to store them, the best way to do that, I'll show you here. Just pulled a few right here. So the best way to store them is just like this, exactly like this. Don't clean it. Yeah, don't clean it off. Don't clip the flowers. Don't do anything to it. Just leave it just like this. You know, put it in a dry, cool area, basement, garage, root cellar, cupboard, and just leave it alone. And these roots will stay, these bulbs will stay good and juicy and tasty for almost all year, almost for a full year, if you just leave them alone like this. And when I first started gathering onions, I had to learn by experimentation. I tried, you know, cleaning the bulbs and drying the bulbs that way. They just turned to dust. I try, you know, clipping the flowers but leaving these with the husks on them and that kind of thing. Inside it just turns to dirt. It's gross. But if you just take the entire plant and don't mess with it, put it away, it's perfect. It stays for months and months. Alright, so that's one of the plants that's out here that I'm gonna gather a bunch of before I leave this site. But for the purposes of this video, let's go show another plant that I'm gonna be gathering here as well. Along the what I find is along the kind of the tops of the ridges, and oftentimes in an area that might be a trail for deer or coyotes, but basically on the tops of these coulee ridges there is a plant community called Misamssootaa, and we have two different kinds of species of Misamssootaa here. This is it right here. It's a little yellow umbrella plant. Now earlier in the season these had bright flowers on them. Now they've gone to seed. Okay, and this is when I like to gather the root after they've gone to seed, because then I can just leave the whole seed head here and it'll reseed for next year. I can even plant it in the little hole that I dug the root out of, or plant some of them in there and put the other ones out just to fly away. But yeah, there's a lot of these Misamssootaas out here. Some here, and pretty much all up and down this slope. Some right here. There's Misamssootaa. So I am going to dig one out to show you what it is I'm after. This one you're gonna have to use the digging stick. Some roots are better than others. These Misamssootaa that I'm looking at right here are just kind of like so-so in terms of their size. Sometimes you'll find really big ones. These ones will just have a skinny root, I think. These ones here. But they're worth harvesting nonetheless, especially in this wet weather, when it's so easy to get them out. Now, so this is what I'm after. It's a nice little biscuit root, and it can be dried and stored just like this, and then use a grater to grind it down, or it can be cut up into little a lot of times I like to cut my roots up into coins and makes them easier to rehydrate later. Basically, when you look inside, it's a nice starch filled root, so it's lots of calories in these starchy roots. They're kind of like potatoes, and it's very moist. The taste is just bland and starchy. But these would have been very important sources of calories in the past, of energy. So this would have been one of the mainstay roots. The other one, well, not the other one, but one of the main roots, the primary roots for food in the past, is this plant right here. This one with the 5 leaves and the clover-like flower. This is Indian breadroot, also in Blackfoot called moss. And got a couple of plants here. I'm gonna dig one of those out for you today, but I'm gonna wait till I find a big one, so I can show you the big root, because these are very small plants, probably first year seeded plants. I want to find a big one, and those are really the classic kind of big potato, but they're hard to dig out, and they taste a little bit better than Mucinian, but Mucinian is so easy to get that I think a lot of the diet, the starchy root diet in the past would have been Mucinian based as well, because they're so much more easy to collect than the moss. So I'll show you one more plant before I turn off the video here and do some harvesting for myself. This plant is not a food plant per se, but an important one for medicine, and I'm going to harvest a little bit of it today for that purpose. This is yarrow. See the leaves on it, very fine fern-like leaves, big white flowers, and these flowers are really important medicine as an anti-inflammatory, and that goes throughout the whole. I mean, every indigenous society to the northern hemisphere knows this plant and knows its use as an anti-inflammatory. It's very, very famous for that purpose. The English scientific name for it is something like Achillea millefolium, and the Achillea refers to Achilles, the Greek soldier who used to use that plant, the yarrow, as a medicine for his soldiers in his army when they'd have inflammations, sprains, even broken bones. Traditionally here it's used for all the same stuff, everything from mosquito bites and bee stings on up through broken bones. You make a poultice out of it. You can make a poultice out of the fresh plant, or you can store the plant, dry it, and make a, rehydrate it and make a poultice out of it when you need to use it. And I have seen it used in the field. I teach this stuff, and last year I took my students out on a backcountry overnight excursion, a couple of nights, and one of my students slipped and hit her knee on a rock, on one of the mountain rocks. Right away her knee swelled up, and she was in a lot of pain, and just so happened there was some yarrow on the spot, and so she thought, well, I'm going to try this thing that Ryan showed us, and she chewed up the yarrow and then made a poultice out of it, put it on the knee, and immediately, less than a minute, the swelling went down. So it works that good. I'm going to take some home and mix it with my balm of Gilead, which is another traditional medicine that I've been making. I have some of them that's been stewing a while. It basically starts off with balsam poplar buds, and you put them in oil for about a year, let them seep in that oil. I've added some other things to mine. I've added some hot pepper in some of them. I've added some menthol in the form of wild bergamot, and I'd like to add some yarrow in that and just make a really potent anti-inflammatory type of balm. So anyway, there's some things. I'm going to do a little bit of harvesting, and hopefully we can go find a moss. Big one.